And I
Well,
feel like,
historically, how many comedians do we know who are joyful
no,
in
I
their
know,
everyday
yeah.
life? I mean, that's not really a characteristic.
I guess it depends on what pills they're popping or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on antidepressants, never have been, but I certainly feel like I'm one of the only comedians who isn't. And funnily enough, the first time I never was in therapy my entire life, and kind of when I became a public person, because it was it was when I was 30 years old, which I think is kind of old to transition from complete unknown to ever hundreds of thousands of people knowing the most intimate details of your life. And that's why I went into therapy. That, along with the fact that, again, at the age 30 plus, I had the realization that I had a nice childhood. Well, I mean, I always knew I had a nice childhood, but I didn't know that was not the norm.
Mm.
See, I thought like, these cases of people, coming into the world with intense emotional trauma were a couple people whose stories we, would see in a Lifetime movie. But apparently, I'm like one of three people I know in a large in a large circle of friends and colleagues who did not experience childhood trauma. And even when I say that, people will fight me on that, and it's like, so you're gonna. It makes me go crazy, because it's like, oh, are you going to try to make me go back and find trauma in something I found no trauma in?
Mhm.
And people will even say, well, you probably did have childhood trauma, but you're just maybe perhaps more resilient than others. And there
Mhm.
is this culture of going back and kind of like looking through things, almost combing through things, looking for problems where there were none. Because I have no
Mhm.
problem in like unpacking something that maybe has been like, weighing down your soul. But I do find my friends and colleagues going on this, journey almost for trauma to belong, or to make excuses for things that are just fixable in your present life without, being mad at your parents for 7 months.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's almost like an identity marker in a way, where it's
Yeah,
like, if like, oh, you have a traumatic childhood. Okay, that's the new norm,
Mhm.
and
right.
now you get to. It's almost like you get a little bit more public cachet from being
Mhm.
able to do it, where it's sort of like, um, in a way, it's more respectable,
Mhm.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
and I mean,
Well,
obviously, there are people who went through a lot, and especially
Yeah.
in comedy, I've heard a lot of terrible stories, and then I've also heard a lot of things that's like, I think you probably should stop acting like a shitty human being, and stop blaming that on trauma.
mhm.
You're 39.